Hello, thank you for making it to my presentation today. So, what the topic I have picked for my passion project is something that is closely related to my major and also a very big topic right now, just like all across the globe, conservation. So, I'm just going to be talking about conservation, mainly what it is, why it's important, and what you can do, how you can help. What is conservation? So, conservation is the responsible management of resources and the ecosystem. The ecosystem contains like animals, habitats, things in nature. So first off, resources. There are two main kinds of resources. There are renewable and there are non-renewable. So we want to make sure we are using these resources as efficiently as possible, because while we can make more renewable resources, we don't just have like an unlimited amount. Sometimes there's more demand than there is availability. We want to keep that in mind. And it's even more so true for non-renewable resources, because once we run out of those, we can't make more. A great example of that is fuel, oil. Once we run out of oil, we're not going to be able to make more. So we want to make sure that we're using these things as efficiently as possible, that we're just like dumping them down the toilet, because like I said, there's not a lot to go around. We have to make sure we're doing the best we can, not only so that we don't run out, but so that future generations don't run out, which is something I will talk a lot more about later. But conservation means protecting Earth's resources so future generations can thrive. Protecting ecosystems, which is not only beneficial from like a moral sense, sharing our planet with the animals that also live here, but it's also just beneficial to like keep up biodiversity, making sure there's numerous species around. It's good. I don't think I really need to explain why preserving clean water is important. I'm hoping everyone here drinks water a little bit and prefers clean over dirty water. And yeah, preventing species extinction. We want, again, biodiversity, very important. And we don't want to just like make sure they all die. That's bad. Why conservation matters. Here's a little quote. We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. So the way I take this quote to mean is that the planet we have, we often view it as something passed down to us from previous generations, but that's not really, that's kind of a self-centered, selfish way to think about it. What we should be more so thinking about is what kind of world we're going to leave behind after we're gone, the world we're going to pass down. I know previous generations, we often complain that they didn't do a ton to keep the world healthy, and that we don't have as much as we did, but sometimes I don't really think we're doing as best we can either. And I don't want future generations to look back at us and say they weren't doing as much as they could the same way we do now. So that's why conservation is important on one hand. On the other, it's something just like from a human perspective, I don't want future generations to live in a worse world than we have now. I want them to have just as much resources, just as many animals on the planet, just as many ecosystems. And currently, we are going through a mass extinction. Now, these have happened before, but this one's unique in that it is entirely man-made. Us messing up habitats has led to so many animals being kicked out of their homes and unable to find new habitats and adapt, they die. And so much of that is happening that we are going through a mass extinction. And again, I don't want to live in a world with less than what previous generations had, and I don't want future generations to have to deal with that either. So it's important to think wisely, think ahead, and just try and create a better world. So now you might be thinking, Jesse, what can I do to help? And I think a big issue a lot of people run into with conservation is that they get too focused on the big picture, which while is important, as an individual, I'm going to be honest, there's not a lot you can do to stop global warming, like you as in an individual. Something more you can do is learn about your local area and the problems that are happening there and helping fix those issues. So, just like going outside in national parks, going on hikes, camping, just observing the world is a great first step. After that, I would say look around and see if there are any issues you notice. So, like, maybe there's trash along trails that people just throw out. People down the highway just throwing out bottles out of their windshields. And is there trash in the river? Are people dumping stuff there? Are there animals in your area that are going extinct or even just threatened? Is the recycling levels in your area low? Is there a lot of pollution where you live? Just focus on the local rather than worrying too much about big picture. Because if everyone in their own local areas try to do their best to fix those up, then that would just affect the big picture in and of itself. Another thing you can do is read. Since conservation is such a big topic issue right now, there are a lot of papers, a lot of research being done, a lot of books. It's always on the news every so often whenever something bad happens. Documentaries. There's sometimes events you can go to, whether public, like by the government, or private, done as individuals. The more you know, the more you'll be motivated to help. And that's just something I think is very deep and very true. So go outside, learn all you can, and if there's anything you can do in your area, I would try that. So living mindfully. Here I'm going to talk about some small lifestyle changes you can do that, while not big on their own, if a lot of people started doing, would really help. So just like small daily habits to reduce your environmental footprint. Your environmental footprint is sort of the amount you're using, sort of like a measurement of your wastefulness, and just ways to get that down. So the first one, recycle, recycle, recycle. I'm sure you've heard this one a lot. Don't put your bottles or plastic in the trash. Put it in the recycling bin. Now, I know this one can be inconvenient for some people. I remember in the place I grew up, they didn't actually have recycling, and not everywhere does. In fact, the apartment I live in now doesn't have it. So I know this one can be kind of hard for some people if it's not readily available. But if you can, I would highly recommend doing so. I know there's a lot of recycling bins on campus. Buying used stuff, it says thrift close here, but really just anything you can buy that's used is going to do a lot more than buying it new, because you're not just taking in what's new, you're using what's old and what would instead be thrown away. So yeah, use thrift clothes or just reuse anything. Shorter showers. Sometimes I get distracted in the shower, and I'll be in there for like 40 minutes. Um, you don't really need to take 40-minute showers. If you can, like, cut that time down, I would try. Um, just throw your shampoo in your hair, throw some conditioner, and get out. Make sure you use soap too. Oh, that's a big thing. Make sure you use soap instead of body wash, like bars. Big difference. Uh, Turn off lights and unplug unused devices. Again, this is really for anything electronical. This is a thing a lot of people do. Don't leave in your chargers when you're not using them, your phone chargers. Whether the phone's plugged in it or not. If you're not actively charging, don't keep things plugged in. Yeah, make sure you keep most things unplugged. This is also just a good idea because electrical fires can happen if you have too many things plugged in. Walk, bike, or use public transportation when available. UTC, I think, does a pretty good job with that. You have the shuttle system. There's a lot of like auto bikes around that you can use. Cars, they're everywhere. I mean, traffic's pretty bad sometimes, so I don't know, maybe walking will get you there faster. But yeah, do that when you can. Choose low waste or refillable products. Water bottles, or just reusing a plastic bottle instead of buying a new one whenever you have one available. That can help. So, yeah, that's some ways you can live mindfully and some changes you can commit to reduce your environmental footprint and be more resourceful. And it might even save you some money, who knows. Joining a cause. Now, this is for something for more committed people. This isn't really like your everyday average Joe sort of deal, but for those who really care, who really want to get involved, there are often local groups that will have events you can go to. And the one I want to focus on here is the UTC Wildlife Zoology Club. Now, I want to preface this by saying I am not a part of this club, but I do want to highlight it because I think they do good things. And if it interests you, who knows, maybe next semester try and get involved. So I have some of the things they've done over the 2 semesters. So they host a lot of bake sales. Even if you're not part of the club, you can go to those, buy cookies, and help raise money. They take trips to the Nashville Zoo. Again, this is part of like learning about your local area that I've talked about earlier. Just going to nature centers and acquiring more knowledge. Cleanups. I have participated in a few cleanups. They happen so every often. Just like go out to a big area filled with trash, typically off like a highway, near a river, high forest, and just like pick up trash. It's very rewarding. You just feel good when doing it, and it's a fun activity to socialize. You typically meet people when you do stuff like that. Guest speakers, famous conservation people, they bring those in and they just talk, and you can listen to them talk about what they're doing, what you can do. It's sort of like what I'm doing now, but just, more fancy. This one sounded really fun. Leading night hikes, like going out in the forest into dark and looking for owls. That sounds a lot of fun. And yeah, just monthly meetings. If this interested you at all, I would definitely look into it. But again, this is for something for more sort of committed people. But yeah, that's mostly what I wanted to talk about today. The main points were what is conservation, why it's important, and what you can do to participate. And I really hope that in the future we can improve the world rather than making it worse. That is my biggest hope over anything else. And I just want to end it on a quote here. So, conservation is the fight for preservation of life on Earth, and that above all else is worth fighting for. Thank you for coming to my presentation, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you.